Hello, friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The World of Literature. This is the seventh video in the series of Partition Literature, and this is meant specially for the students of English literature, the students who are just the beginners, students who want to know and understand what partition literature is. So, here in this video, I will give a brief account of partition. Now, partition study is important. Why? And why partition is relevant? The study of partition is relevant even today. That is very important factor to study under partition. Then what is the impact of partition on literature and what is partition literature? Though I have discussed in the earlier videos, I have discussed about novels, I have discussed about films, but then as it is meant for the students and the beginners, we will just take a brief glimpse into partition. Now, introduction to partition. Now, the Britishers, we all know, or you all might be knowing, that the Britishers ruled India for 200 years. But they had implemented a strategy of divide and rule to rule the public by dividing the state, by dividing the country. Political leaders and people of India unitedly fought to free India from the clutches of the rule. After long struggle, India could manage to set our country free, and finally India became independent nation in 1947. But unfortunately, this victory had to pay the price. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of Muslim League, demanded for the division of the country into two. So the subcontinent was split into two independent nations in August 1947. One became the Hindu majority country, that is India, and another the Muslim majority, that is Pakistan. Pakistan was a newly created nation that was split from India. So now, dear students, this is the map of India which shows the division of the split between India and Pakistan. Pakistan was split into the East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Now, finally, on 1947 August, we got independence. But the celebration of independence from British turned out into bloody and brutal chapter in the history of the two nations. The split between India and Pakistan disturbed the peace of the region. As a result, violence took place. People from both the sides or from both the communities killed each other. There was cruelty, bloodshed, displacement, migration, that is, people moving from one place to another, conversion into other religion, forced marriage, abduction, etc., that took place during partition. Now, these are some of the images, the pictures that you can see are so much shocking and devastating. Now, in this picture, you will find the rights that are broken in the country because of partition. Then, in the next picture, you can have a look how the people have died. These are the dead bodies of people. The migration and displacement was an important factor because people, those who were homeless, they moved from one region to another. Trains, you can see the trains full of people. People did not get any place, so they sat on the top, on the roof of the train because they wanted to migrate. The Hindus wanted to move to one side, the Muslim to another side, children and women. The picture is really very shocking. Many people from both the sides of the borders were displaced, and then they had to take shelter somewhere else due to loss of so many villages, because in the violence villages were lost. Those who survived the violence, because many millions of people were killed, but those who survived the violence, they naturally had to take shelter somewhere, with thousands of others already inhabiting the overcrowded places. Now, in this picture you can see a very large area, a large space where which has been inhabited by so many people, but more and more people had to be accommodated there. So it was really suffocating. Just to look at the picture only we can understand how suffocating it might be to accommodate so many persons. Then refugee camps were set by the Indian government. The largest, which had was the home to about 300,000 people. It is estimated that 15 million people were displaced and found shelter in refugee camps. Now, inside these camps, people from both the side of the borders came in search of their near and dear ones. Like the place was inhabited by so many persons, but where are they? They were lost. So just imagine the the plight of the survivors. They were fighting, they were looking for each other, the near and the dear ones who were lost during the partition violence. Now this is the picture of the refugee camp, the largest refugee camp that was set up in Delhi. And the women, naturally, we have already discussed before, children and men were killed, the women were killed, but those who survived, they were the most affected persons of partition. It is estimated that 75,000 to 100,000, that is 1 million women, were abducted by the members of other religious community. They were murdered and sold or forced into marriage. Now, this picture also, looking at the picture, you can see how the children are homeless. The woman has to live in poverty. Then, after the brief introduction about partition and looking at the devastating images, the question might come to your mind, why the study of partition is still relevant today. Partition is already over in 1947. Why are we repeating it again and again? So, students, partition of 1947, just remember that this was the greatest Holocaust that saw violence, bloodshed, clash between Hindus and Muslims, communal hatred, abduction, etc. Today, also, we face that violent situations many times in India too. You can you come to know that this sort of situation often occurs, and there is clash between Hindus and Muslims. So, if we understand partition, okay, what exactly happened there, what uh, um, what phase the people had to go through, we understand that the seed of communal hatred was planted in the year 1947, and it is continued till date. So, if a person is talking about Hindu Muslim religion, they are talking about violence, they are talking about the communal hatred, it means that we have to look back at partition that had happened so many years ago in 1947. Now, lit- when we talk about literature, now students, try to understand that what is the impact of partition on literature. The literature of those times reflected the complexity and dynamics of social life, the loss of home and land, the worries for the near and the dear ones who were left behind, the anxiety of starting life afresh in a new land, and other helplessness has been captured in the literature of partition. So, all these factors, the loss, the displacement, then uh, people were worried about the relatives, about their friends, about their children. Imagine what might have been their status when somebody, one brother, you can imagine that one brother staying in India and another is leaving for Pakistan, and they were not sure whether they will be meeting again or not. So this displacement affected their mind. So the literature captured all these events of partition. Now, keeping partition in the background, the writers came forward to write about the subject. They wrote about the Holocaust, they wrote about the violence, they wrote about the suffering, the trauma, the hatred, etc. Many writers wrote fiction, stories, films. Such works of writers come under the canopy of partition literature. So, students, in the next video, I will talk about partition novels, partition films, partition stories, etc. in brief. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching. Please share and subscribe. Thanks, dear friends.